Hello, people. We are back with another review, and once again, Mr. George V underscore AFC is late, so please blame him. Um, but we are here. We're here after another win. We're here before hopefully we finish top four, and I'm here with George again. And don't worry, before you do ask, we're getting CK back. He's coming back. He's coming back with a vengeance, hopefully. But for now, it's just the two of us today. So, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How about you?
I had the old CV again, so which is the fourth time now, which is quite hilarious. But we move. Just literally got back, tested negative last night, so we're back to normal now. But it's been fun. It's been a fun weekend. How about you?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. I think I'm getting excited that the Arsenal Twitterverse is kind of, coming around
Coalescing.
to the idea. Yeah, coalescing. Kind of coming to the idea around for top four. Absolutely. We're trying to figure out that pesky hamstring, so he's coming back soon. Um, but yeah, look, I think there's a lot to talk about because that Leeds game was
A
interesting. Where
lot.
Yeah. Well, so you know what it was? It was, kind of building off of some of the best football patterns that I've seen us play since City,
Mhm.
in patches, but it was so inconsistent that it must have felt like a bad performance. But if you did have a chance to watch it back, and, like, we'll definitely be breaking it down here, some of the football patterns and how crisp that we were playing the ball was some of the best that I've seen since City. It was really, really crisp, really, um, vertical and very, very fast paced. But the problem
Mm.
was, Leeds did make it difficult kind of in the middle of the park. And I think that we weren't totally in tune. I think that happens with Rob Holding. When you do have him at the back, and that's not to single him out. He's been pretty good on a defensive end, but just when he leads the progression, sometimes the passes get delayed. Sometimes they don't get to their man as quick as they can, and that just slows things and allows the opposition to get back into their settled block a little bit, and it just makes things a little bit more difficult. But some of the attacking play between Odegaard sorry, not Martinelli, but Odegaard and Saka
Saka.
was
Yeah.
really quite nice, and especially at the top edge of the box, and there was a lot of movement happening. And look, Eddie and Nketiah, I said it. I've said it for a while. I don't think that story is written, guys. I really do not think that we can just say that he's gone. I think that guy is an asset. And when you're looking at things like Gabriel Jesus, which we haven't really caught into the transfers, but when you're looking at some of those being banded about for what 50 odd million, I mean they're requesting 60 million euros,
Mm.
something like 52 million. I don't see value there, especially with Eddie, and we'll probably have a bigger segment to talk about with an Eddie because I
Shall we do it?
I think we should because
Yeah, I
kind of
don't mind
ties
at all.
into the Mohamed El Neni extension. It kind of ties in what do we do. And look, you guys always love transfers, so maybe you guys are getting a little bit of a quick treat. Like for you, and maybe I'll ask the question and I'll give you like my opinion. But when you have these depth pieces, okay, um, when is the good time to renew? When is the good time to cut? And when is the time that it makes sense to buy outside? Because when you look at it from like a broad
Mm.
scale, you can make pros for almost any player. I've been having these annoying debates, and I'm sure you have, with links.
Yep.
And people that divide opinion, cough cough, Yuri Tielemans, which I don't know why it divides opinion, but when you get these things, you start getting the arguments. But he's good in this facet of play, and you can see it if you twist it in this kind of way. He might be able to fit, and then maybe that kind of makes sense. And I find you can kind of make an argument for that. For example, Mohamed El Neni. Some of the arguments are he's somebody that doesn't speak up. He's a very hard worker. He comes in, he does a job. The last 4 games, truth be told, he's been brilliant. And even in the Leeds game, he was very good in holding down the fort. It wasn't like it was kind of an issue. But then you start extending that to an Eddie Nketiah, you see the value. But we also know the downhill slope of that. We know the downhill slope of what we did before Mikel when we started making excuses for people for depth, and we started making these contract extensions that now end up hampering you. So I think sometimes the medium is a little bit in between, where when you look at these things, the biggest thing for me is if you are getting a player that is going to fit a system or an aspect of play and you're thinking of renewing them, A, They have to be willing to play 15 to 20 games. You have to be willing to play them for 15 to 20 games. That as a depth signing is kind of what you demand. Now, another thing that you must demand is you must see 3 to 4 years of value for me. That if you see those two things, then it makes sense for me to add or re-sign that depth. Now, I think with the case of Mohamed El Neni and even Eddie Nketiah is a weird one because we've done a lot of training on that boy. And
I think he's probably the most coached individual at the club at this moment
well,
in
the most
time.
improved since 2020, if you're really
No, but
looking
just
back.
in terms of like individual coaching, I feel like we've
Mhm,
really honed in and made sure that he is like he's improved leaps and bounds. And we said it. I don't know if you remember. We said it at the Hibs game
mhm,
in preseason when he was having that left wing cameo, and he was going and he was like, "Hang on a second, there is really improvements in his game, in his technical security, in his outlet play, especially because I didn't see this a lot of the time. People, I feel like if you looked at the Leeds game last year, you were seeing a poacher, and that was his thing. Oh, he's a poacher. Get him in the goal. He's a goal threat. I didn't see an outlet. I didn't see a link up play player, and I didn't see the aerial ability that he's shown recently. I didn't see that. What I'm seeing now is a much more complete nine that's able to not only link up play deep, but actually make runs into the box. Shock, we actually have someone that does that and we're scoring goals. Instead of having, the opposite, one way system that we've been having recently with Lacazette.
yeah, and, look, I think you kinda tackled them really quickly before we get in the Leeds game because I definitely do. That's the point of this review. Um, Look, let's really look at Mohamed El Neni and what kind of re-signing him means, because I think a lot of people get worried that then, "Oh, that means that you'll block wage bill, you'll block space, and you'll block things for other people," but I don't necessarily agree when you look at the wages he's on. When he's on 40K, 50K wages for the next 2 years, I don't find a trouble with that because if you don't recruit somebody, you're gonna have to find somebody like a Florian Grillitsch, okay? You'd have to make a transfer, for
Hmm.
nothing to make it make sense, but even then, Florian Grillitsch is on 80K, 90K, easily. You know, he's a Hoffenheim player from the Bundesliga who could be a really good option if we were not to re-sign Elneny, but then after that, mate, like, you're taking away from your transfer budget. If the goal is to maximize what you've got right now to really make impactful starting 11 additions, I think right now we don't need to worry about overhauling the depth necessarily. I'm much more focused on a stepwise approach, kind of making sure that we finish the starting 11. We make sure that we're really comfortable
Hmm.
and happy with that starting 11. And then the following season, we can start making decisions about recruiting for depth. And those things don't have to go like, synonymously with each other. So deals like Aaron Hickey, at 17 million pounds, I love the boy. I've scouted him.
Yeah, me too.
A lot to say. I think we should do a video on him. That's a
That was
very
my COVID.
Yeah,
That was my COVID period, just scouting Aaron Hickey. The
exactly. But
lot,
like
yeah,
those things are really good. But then if you start looking at depth pieces for a backup DM, again, we were linked with Leslie Ugochukwu, who was a dream of mine. I've been yelling his name on Twitter for almost a year and a half now.
and in my ear for the past year, it's been
Yeah.
constant.
Constantly, and we got a link in January. But like, mate, even if we were to recruit him, I'm sorry, he's not at the level of Mohamed El Neni at this present moment in time. He is a
No,
phenomenal DM. He is gonna make waves. He's probably gonna be one of the best DMs, in my opinion, at least for as a French midfielder for a while. But the boy's really raw. He's not ready, and so for me, it makes sense to have these bridge signings, where if you extend a Mohamed El Neni, who again doesn't complain, does come in and does a good job. He's not
and is a
impacting.
locker room leader as well.
He is a locker room leader. He has been here, ironically, has been here a long time. These aren't the experience that I cut away. I cut away the experience that cost us. I like to cut away your Mustafis. I like to cut away your Socrates, guys that are like nice and strong, but have an impact on your style of play. Like
Yeah,
those were times that you cut experience. I don't know that you cut a Granite, that you cut a Muhammad Al Neni. Do you cut a promising young striker, Eddie and Kedia, you've spent almost 2 years developing, that now is, if you were to place him in a Brighton or a Palace, can score 15 goals a season? No,
easily.
easily. I don't think those are decisions
Mm.
that you then cut. For me, you extend, you build those assets, and then you can sell off at a time that it kind of makes sense for you. And by the way, like for a 2-year contract, that's something that for me It would take us basically buying his replacement, and he has a year to bed in. Like, those are smart contractual decisions. The worst
Yeah.
part is re-extending somebody on 3 to 4 years. To me, that sends a long-term message.
But
If
we
you
aren't
get
doing that. Even with Mikel, we didn't
more
do that. So quickly, before, the last thing I'm going to make, there's 2 points I'm going to make before we move on to the Leeds game, because this is the Leeds match
Mhm.
review. Okay, let's not just do this the transfers the entire time. But the first point I'm going to make is about Eddie himself. I think Eddie himself has shown that all he wanted was security over how much he will be involved in the squad, and he has that now. He has the ability to show that he is in favor of with the manager, and we need to start recruiting and doing our transfer policy based on whether a player will be useful as in our squad. It's time to stop this whole we'll sell when they're the best and we'll keep them when they're the worst. You're looking at your Sanchez's, you're looking at the Van Persie's, Fabregas. When players are emerging, it's time to renew and show faith in them. It shouldn't be the time where you cut ties and go, okay, we're going to invest in a shiny new toy. Look, this guy is literally coming into his own. So I personally, at the beginning, when he went after the Chelsea game and after the thing, I thought, you know what? This is the thing for me. I always thought that there was enough quality there that he would shine at a different club. But if we're giving him assurances that he will be able to play for us, I don't see any reason why to sell him. It doesn't make any sense. And the second point, I'm going to quickly refer to a poll I did, because I know you saw this poll as well. I did a poll on this because it's quite, for me, I think it's quite obvious. So if you look at this poll, so in terms of budget allocation, if you go for a Gabriel Jesus, it gives you less funds available, for example, for your marquee striker. If you go for an Eddie, it frees up more of your budget because you're not spending 35, 40, 45 million on two different strikers that aren't going to give you the same bang for your buck that, say, an Osimhen might. You're really you'll keep making sure that you're allocating superstar funds for superstar players instead of going, okay, these are the two players that I think will be great for us. And by the way, both of these options are great options. Jesus plus Tony
Yeah.
or Jesus plus DCL are fine. But I really feel like if you give an opportunity to a kid that's embedded in our squad, a Haaland kid, as well as that real top superstar potential with Osimhen from Napoli, and you have the funds to do that, and you have UCL football, I think it makes much more sense.
Well, I think the question here is because even like, look, in this case, what you're kind of basically saying, and I did leave a comment, on it. The former raises your
That's
floor,
fine
and
to comment.
the latter raises your ceiling. And for me,
Yes.
when we talk about the Champions League and in terms of Champions League quality, um, I don't really agree that they're direct backups. I mean, it's certainly not Mohamed El Neni. I mean, even if you were to keep him, he's already fifth choice central midfielder. If we buy somebody in central midfield, you're buying a partner with Thomas Partey, and then bam, it's basically Lakanga, Shaka, and El Neni become your backup. So I don't think they're direct backup. And in terms of Eddie, I think he's excellent backup material. He's already shown in this period he has a reason to do it. And when we look at it, I mean that there's the comment itself. I mean, for me, the latter is really what I'm really interested in. That idea of really raising the ceiling of the team, and by essentially going for a Jesus plus a Tony, somebody that again, these are good players in their own right. You get okay 7 out of 10s in two positions, or do you get a 10 out of 10 in your starting position and a 7 out of 10 in your depth, which essentially is kind of the question right now. And for me, we already had our window, which is this last window where we increased the floor. That's what we
Yep.
already did. This next summer, in order to take the next step in Arsenal's progression, what we saw with Liverpool, City, and all of these big rebuild teams, you need your summer to announce yourselves that you're ready, and that's really improving that starting 11. And for me, mate, making sure that this summer is about adding the 1 to 2 significant marquees that really up this team's ceiling is
Yep.
the real focus for
Because
me.
that's what we need to compete with the top teams.
Yeah.
That's what we're missing right now. And just to answer this, and this will be the last thing I promise, guys,
Mm.
because we do need to cover this game. For me, I don't really think there is any. There's never going to be a must in transfer policy. It's never how you should do things, because transfer policy is fluid. Deals go by minute, and you can't really say, okay, cool. Um, okay, this is what we must do because
No,
as we saw with
actually, sorry.
Vlahovic in January, things can fall through. You need to have backups on backups, and you need to have different avenues to go down in case your first option fails. You need to have different strategies for different outcomes. There's no must. But
Well,
for me, I feel like it's high. It's time to get the key signings, the real big signings.
so you know what this does though, Curry, mate? Sorry, like the only last thing is I think this
Mm.
ties with Olivier's comment in terms of, but Jesus would play winger kind of in any. I agree. I think he has no potential at a center forward, and he would be coming in for a winger. But by buying Gabriel Jesus, which by the way is going to be quoted at 45 million pounds, when Serge Gnabry is down to a last year, he will cost the same amount of money. Raheem Sterling is going to cost the same money as a Gabriel Jesus, and actually they can maybe charge a little bit more for Gabriel Jesus because he's young. He's got some potential. I mean, they're both on the last year of contract, and one is significantly less in experience, but they're basically going to have similar price points. And for me, the thing is, if you re-sign at Eddie, what it allows you to do is to go big on a winger. So if you were to recruit a Gabriel Jesus, yeah, you're right. He'd probably start as a winger and have depth at striker. But if we re-sign our depth striker, the 40 million pound budget that you're looking at spending at a Jesus that won't really affect your starting 11, you can put towards a starting 11 addition in terms or in lieu of Raheem Sterling, a Serge
Yep.
Gnabry, a
Yep.
Sulemana, a Kamaldeen Suleiman. Like these are names that for me are starting winger quality. And I never believe that Gabriel Jesus, as much as I like him, will ever be more than a title challenging depth addition. I don't
He's proven that's what he is right now.
well, he's proven it. I mean, the big reason that he's leaving kind of the best team in the country is because that really isn't it. And so for me, that's kind of where I stand on it, where I'm really looking to recruit starting 11 additions into the starting 11, and then we can kind of take the next step. And guys, that doesn't mean that then next year we're done, of course. I will be recruiting depth that I think we have a little bit more leeway next summer where you can use that bigger budget to kind of really round out the squad. And we have a bunch of Hale End talents that are coming through. This is, again, not including William Saliba, who's coming back from loan, who will be a fixture. Hate to break it to everybody. Brooke Norton Cuffy, somebody that absolutely is ready to contribute to the first team. And there's
I hope we don't sign Ballard. I hope we don't sell Ballard. If we do sell Ballard, I feel like we have to re-sign Holding. But like, if Ballard is available and still wants to come in and do a role, I think he's perfect. I think it's time. He's probably the best. I mean, you've said it plenty of times, and I do agree with you that he's probably one of the better defenders at the club in terms of actual pure defending. Um, I just feel like there's a lot of potential to go with lots of different ways, and that's what you want. You want the ability to be flexible and still keep the quality of your squad high because we have the money and we have the talent coming through as well. So I think there's a lot of leeway to go, and that's what you want.
that absolutely. And look, guys, this is not a transfer pod; it's a Leeds post match. So you guys got a little bit of a special. We will get into the Leeds preview now.
Yeah,
So yeah, look, we will definitely be doing some pods though. If you guys like that content, we know you like it. I don't even have to ask it, but we will
yeah.
be coming up with some more stuff coming soon.
And
Um,
honestly, we like it too. I can talk about this for like another 40 minutes, but we really need to cover this Leeds game because we can't just lead you on with it. We has to be you have to really make sure that
So on that
you get
note,
it done.
taking over from that horrible atrocity, I'm sorry that you guys had to hear that. We're gonna get into the
Uh,
Leeds review. So listen, Leeds, big game, by the way, and I think there were some snippets in terms of the Arteta contract renewal um, that he talked about Leeds fighting for their lives, and they are. And I find it tough because Jesse Marsh has improved this team, but he got a fixture list that no manager is really going to do well with, if you really look at it, right, mate? Like, in terms of the fixtures that he's had to compete with, they've been pretty crazy. But look, I think Leeds have improved under him, but they've improved in a different way. And essentially, when you look at this kind of fixture, we had to do our business, right? Like, this is the first game where we knew what Spurs did. They got a draw, which, by the way, was the same as a loss for me. Like, it doesn't really change your perception about what you need to do. But going into this game, we had to do the business, right? Like, I know we were at home. I know
mm.
that it's a team that's fighting relegation, absolutely. I think Leeds potentially could go down. They're definitely up there on the chopping block. They've got a difficult run of fixtures, so they were going to throw the kitchen sink at us. But I think that Stuart Dallas and Liam Cooper exclusion was just too much. We made sense of it in the preview. I think ultimately it was their undoing because we really made a lot of joy out of pressing their build-up. And by the way,
Yep.
this was an excellent tryout for Spurs. That is coming tomorrow, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that Spurs preview that you guys all know and love. I will be in good form for that. But I think when we look at this game, mate, and maybe you can put up the tactical board for this. Um,
Mm.
I took a look at the team and I thought, okay, that's a leggy team that Jesse Marsh has put out. And for us, I worried about having Tomiyasu kind of switch dynamics in that Cedric area. But the one thing that I didn't worry about was, Tomiyasu's level, who I thought was phenomenal. I think, he to come into the game and do that. Look, we've been saying on this channel, and we've said it for a while, Tomiyasu plays left center back for internationally for Japan.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a matter of us maybe questioning whether or not he could perform there. I was more worried about Cedric, namely against James, which he didn't do. He kind of kept Harrison wide. But when you kind of look at this lineup, mate, a lot of it is what we expected. Ben White just couldn't really get back in here, but I was a big fan about putting players where they're comfortable, and that kind of meant Tommy right back for me. But we saw him at left back. I think he did phenomenal. He really tracked Rafinha. It was very clear that Tomiyasu was given a job to follow Rafinha when he drops deep into midfield. And by the way, it kind of sets us up perfectly, mate. I don't know if you had any lineup questions beyond that, but I think that ploy to stop Rafinha was the key
Yeah.
for us, and it resulted in the first goal. I mean, when you look at it, Tomiyasu tracks Rafinha back, passes it back to Kaku has an excellent name, and passes it back to Meslier, and Eddie's fervent pressing essentially gets us the goal there. What did you make of that first goal, the opening kind of 5 minutes? Because I think having people where they're comfortable is excellent. But Tommy's kind of ability to shut down Rafinha was probably the key tactical battle in this game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think with Tommy, it's more of an issue of putting your best one-on-one defender on their best one-on-one threat. I think
Mhm.
that's the key issue, and their best threat is Rafinha. I mean, you saw when he went off that Arteta was like, "Okay, calm, just a little pat on the back," and off he went, and for good reason. I think he had a decent. I don't think he had enough to really threaten us with, but he had a decent game. I think when you're up against, and this is what Tomiyasu does so well. He does three things. He's a contrition. In transition, he's just amazing. Like his ability to track back is just crazy. His ability on one-on-one defending and his inability and his ability in the air as well. I mean, there was a couple of corners, but that he was challenging Meslier for. But in terms of the first 5 minutes, to answer your question, I think the main thing for me, obviously, the goal. But I think what was so key and so interesting to me is we weren't even on our halfway line. We were in their half. Like our line was so high. I
Yeah.
don't know if you noticed that as well. It was so high that like we were just like, okay, we are coming. Like the team just looks so up for it. They look so interested in just making sure that there's just nothing. There's nothing. We will dominate this game. And I think Mikel either just got them, completely roared up for the game, or something had happened before the game because they were on. They were okay. We're gonna get our press on. We're gonna make sure our we don't look silly in terms of individual duels, losing second balls, etc. Everyone is on it. Everyone came out like for blood, and I think that they realized how big an opportunity this was in having with Spurs dropping points. I mean, obviously it wasn't the full three, but they still drop points, and we have this 4 point cushion. And I think that really there was something mentally going on there. I think. What did you make of it?
I mean, I thought the pressure really the key was Tomiyasu being able to kind of just mark Rafinha meant that Granit Xhaka played a little bit higher up the pitch, which is always good
Yeah,
for
that's
me.
true.
When
Yep.
when you get Granit kind of in areas of midfield that he's able to dictate, that's awesome. And we kind of made a conscious choice because who's on that side. You kind of mentioned is Click, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a better 1v matchup for a Granit than Calvin Phillips, and that for me was really the story essentially in that first 10 minutes in that beginning because I thought that we were very high. I agree with you. I think we played more in a 4-1-1 press. Like Martin Odegaard kind of joined. He wasn't always. We didn't really sit anybody on Calvin Phillips. We kind of let Eddie harass the back line, and everyone stepped together. And I think
Yeah, yeah. I'm just trying to remember in my head the press, and it was yeah. We didn't really have. I think because they were kind of you. I expected personally, I expected more this, and then like this sort of thing, like with that. That's what I expected with James as the outlet,
but they
but
didn't really play
without
that.
they didn't do that. They played Harrison wide, and James was kind of like the 10 sort of thing, and then Phillips and Click were the pivot. So for me, I think seeing that, I think they were like, okay, well, let's make sure that we don't basically get through. They don't pass our line instead of sitting on a DM because Phillips. They I don't think they trusted him progressively like our defenders. I don't think they look to him as progressively as like this massive threat going forward. So I think they just kind of laid off him and thought, okay, we're gonna let you have the ball and you can pass, but there wasn't really anywhere to pass to because we were so high up and our second balls were so good.
Well, I think the big thing, Kermit, like I actually talked about this briefly on Twitter, and we'll probably maybe show. I want to do maybe a tactical analysis for all you guys and your members if you really look at it. But talking about shadow covering. And it was kind of like one of the
Mm,
statuses that I put up, and there was like a little coaching drill that we used to really teach shadow covering. And what I mean by shadow covering is when Eddie Nketiah presses the ball. So Luke Ayling received in that first goal. Let's break it down, right? Tommy Asu follows Rafinha back. Rafinha passes it off to Ayling, and Ayling receives it kind of at that edge of the box area, and he's passing it off to Meslier. Now, Martinelli is not the one following Meslier. Okay, Martinelli is just pressuring Ayling, but he's bending his run so that he can't pass the ball back to Rafinha or to Click. And Martin Odegaard is also rushing, but he's not committing to Cock. He's pressing up to Click. And what that does in this tactical board, it's kind of set up really nice, but Rafinha and Click are both marked out of the game at this point. And those are what
mm.
we call the shadow covering. And then what Eddie does is he makes a bending run, if you will, and he's already on Cock, but he doesn't go straight for Meslier. He goes and he bends his run in like a banana peel kind of run that we're used to. And look,
The
Meslier is
J,
too
yeah.
long on the ball. And by the way, Kern, again, I say this for Spurs. This is going to be important. Like Lloris takes time on the ball. We're going to see this play. And look, Cudi Romero is a horrible, horrible ball player when he's under pressure. He is going to be a pressing trigger. He's been a pressing trigger in the last couple of games. He's going to
Yep.
be one
That
now. I
whole
think
right side, we're going to be really, really, pushing because that Emerson side with Kuti as well will be a very much a side where we go heavy with our press because it really is, technically insecure is putting it lightly with Emerson, and Kuti, as you mentioned, isn't exactly the most calm on the ball.
no. He rushes his decisions, and he's gonna be a pressing trigger, right? And essentially, what you've got though is kind of Martinelli able to do what he does best and force people wide. But Eddie follows with a great aggressiveness, and he does really, really well. And I think what we saw also is Martinelli, side note, having a really good game. Something I don't think he can say the last couple times, but
No.
it was making sense because I was saying previously in other streams, you can't play Martinelli and Nuno Tavares together. There seems to be a partnership, and that's because they're both really poor on the ball in wide areas. So what you do in order to balance kind of Martinelli and let him have a really good game is you need a left back who is amazing on the ball. And if you
Yeah.
play Nuno Tavares, you need somebody that's really secure technically. So you need Emil Smith Rowe. Those are your kind of two combos that you need down that left hand side, I think. And look, if you have
100%.
sorry.
100%. I'm just saying that either you have the technical security of Emil with Nuno, or you have the outlet of Marcelli with Tomiyasu, who's able to be that rock behind. So I think it's either or with those.
Yeah, and again, what you essentially got too, and even for the second goal, mate, like I mean, that was kind of the story of the first goal, but even the second goal, we went into our 2-3-5 really, really quick. I mean, Granite has it in that left half space, Mo's in the middle, Cedric's joined kind of in the middle. But we've got Gabriel and Holding that are back, and Tommy is a little bit advanced. Martinelli's keeping the width, and Eddie had just come from chasing somebody. But essentially, what you get is Granite received in that left half space. He's pulling and receives. Martinelli receives it kind of touchline, and he just drives. When Gabby's in this position and he's got his head down, there's only one option and only one way he's going, and that boy is going touchline and to the goal and quick.
Yeah.
And he commits players. He takes on basically Luke Ayling, and does a beautiful cutback. And look, Eddie is in the middle of the box now, mate. The one thing that I really wanted to do, and I don't want to kind of um, I don't want to hammer other people for it, but look, Lacazette's not getting there. That's the difference that a moving striker kind of gives you,
Yeah.
because we had him come deep to receive, and he was the one making some pressures, trying to provide a link.
I mean,
But
you might not want to, but I will. He avoids duels. He runs wide, and all we need is someone just in the box, just putting balls away. His ball striking has gone down. His ability to hold basically the centre backs off and turn and shoot is just not there. He drops deep or he runs wide, and we can't have that. We don't have the ability to just carry another midfielder right now. We're not going down the Joao Felix route. We don't have that ability. And even if you were to put him in that mold, he's nowhere near as good as Joao Felix at it. So you need the ability for someone to stay in the box, and that's what Eddie does. You need the ability for someone to drop deep, that's what Eddie does. You need someone to link up play, Eddie does it. Aerial threat to produce knock-ons for other players, Eddie does it. So that's what we've been missing, and that's why things are starting to click in these last 3 games, because we returned to basics with a 3-2 build-up, and we've actually got a striker that moves, and we've seen some of the best football we've had under it. So I think it's fairly obvious why we've been able to succeed.
And look, we know we don't want to beat a dead horse. That's the transition that we're looking to do. But kind of really quickly, I don't want to take away from tomorrow's preview, but we will see a return of the 1-2 press. We'll get the
Yep.
tactical board out to show you, but that's something where you are going to have to watch Harry Kane coming deep. Instead of the DM, you're going to have to watch him coming deep, and that's basically Spurs' one pattern of play. And when you do look at a 3 at the back, just really quickly, it's kind of like when we faced Brighton and what we needed to do essentially. And that's why you do actually recruit a kind of a meal. You do need another 10 in between the lines, because when you have the space in a back 3 is a little bit more in between that corridor between the wing back and the third center back, whereas the space
And in front of them as well, and in front of them, because that you need that ability to have basically. I mean, I'll do it here very quickly. So you need the ability in this area here, where you have either the ability to overlap, or you have the ability to create basically a half space chance creation into the box. So this ball here, so either overlap on the side or do that. But this is all preview for tomorrow. But the point is you need to exploit that area between the fullback and the centre back, as well as between the lines. Because if you look at any Conte team, they struggle between the lines. If you have 10s between the lines and you have players moving in between, because his blocks are so heavily regimented, that 5-4-1 block is so heavily regimented. So yeah, these are the issues. But Leeds. Let's we'll do this tomorrow. But in terms of let's move on to the red card. I think that's a fair point. Or do you want to do the second goal first?
Yeah, really quickly. I mean, like Martinelli just drops deep, and of course, Eddie's kind of in the middle of the box, but Martin Odegaard is also right behind him. So even if Eddie's not there, we've done a great ability to commit bodies into the box. That's the one thing that we've really, really changed kind of this season, in terms of making sure that we get enough people in the box to create havoc. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily to finish chances, but our third man running has been really coached to be at a much better level, and we're committing more bodies to the box when we are in transition. But look, Eddie just does a really good job finishing his dinner. It's a composed finish. It's behind him, actually. It's not the greatest of balls by, Gabriel, but, he does well, and Eddie finishes really, really composed. And again, I think how we are kind of pressing in this system is, once Leeds had an ability to play out from the press, which they did at times when Calvin Phillips was able to kind of get a quick one-touch passing, Granit Xhaka could be bypassed at times, and that first kind of Gabriel yellow kind of at kind of the 15, 20-minute mark was just a sign that if the Leeds put something together, they could get through the middle of the park. And I think that was just because we got a little bit aggressive in our pressing. But I'm wondering, we probably see this against Spurs, but I think this is what helped kill the game to make it a little bit choppy, right, mate? Because by
Yeah.
committing bodies forward, what you're also doing is you're kind of leaving yourself open the other way. So, when I was looking at it, I felt as though we were aggressive, but we were a little bit too aggressive, and that's kind of why we ended up having periods where there was 5 to 10 minute spells of beautiful football by us. Martinelli, yeah, I agree, he was really doing great, kind of on that left hand side. Consistent delivery too. I don't think he gets enough plaudits for that, but he's really improved his delivery
Yep.
from in swing and cross. It was a threat kind of all game. Um, and beyond that, though, I think that's why we kind of had this little bit of kind of 5 minutes. But even after that, Martin Odegaard and I think Bukayo Saka really played well. I'd say from the 15-minute mark to maybe the 35th minute. And they were
Mhm.
constantly getting chances and combining really quite well. I think Bukayo has to do better kind of on that 1v1 chance with Meslier. So we kind
I'm
of
glad
worked.
he got took off, to be honest. I'm really glad he got took off. I think it's a really good thing because we need him fresh, and I think he
Yeah,
has looked a bit leggy at times. And even though I'm sorry, guys, I can't with Pepe. I can't out out now. It's time. I've been nice. I've been so nice to him. I've tried to be like, look, it's okay. He has a role in this squad. We're off the bench with the goal threat and get him in the box and he does well. But out, it's time. I've had enough. It's just time. There's no technical security. He cuts in on an open goal. He cuts in on an open goal. Like
I
who?
I have something I have
I don't think
something
Robin
special.
does that. I don't
I
even
I have
think
some
Robin does that.
I have something
Like,
special
come on.
for Pepe kind of at the end because even Albert Stuyvenberg did. But I think
Ugh.
really quickly, kind of I guess on that red card, mate, because I think
Yeah.
Odegaard, and again, people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, George is praising him." I like the guy. I hate that I have to explain it, but he does something really good here, and he looks up and he plays an early ball into the channels. This is something that I keep telling Martin to do more of. He has to be more vertical. And for that red card chance, he is vertical. He picks it up in deeper areas and he
Mhm.
plays a ball that Martinelli loves to chase and it sends a message on the pass. He sends it into the channel. Martinelli goes and look, mate. For me, it was a red all day long. Like I was screaming
100%.
red. Yeah, I was screaming red from the minute it happened. You're going over the ball, both feet. You're out of control. I'm sorry. When you leave both feet into the ground, it shouldn't be a decision. I don't know why it took as long as it did. I felt as though it was a clear
I
red.
I don't know
Turned
why it
out,
was given on pitch. Like
yeah,
like he's going 2 foot.
and
It's
over the
not even
ball.
about
That's the thing,
over the
right?
ball.
Over the ball. That's a clear red any day of the week. I mean, I'd love to know what people in the comments think.
I didn't.
Um,
I
and
I
and,
I
and
didn't know this. I did not know this. I did not know that. Interesting. Very
I
interesting.
did not know that actually.
I didn't
Um,
know that either.
But,
But yeah.
it goes to show you Mikel's given Pepe chances, but anyways,
Yeah.
that's another dig. Yeah, I think it was quite clearly a red, for me, and I was surprised
100%.
Rafinha lost his head. I think he lost his head because, again, Tomiyasu did brilliantly, we said it earlier in the pod, that was the key battle for me with Leeds. Tomiyasu shut down
Mhm.
Rafinha, he got pissed off, he couldn't get any rhythm into the game, and, he kinda let himself out, and it was crazy, but he gets a yellow card for dissent. I was loving it. I thought he was going to get sent off himself. And then, of course, they had to get out Gelhardt, who I think is hard done by. Like that's a youngster that I think a lot of Leeds fans have high hopes for. And immediately when they do that, you think it kind of killed the game. But current mate, this is one time I'm going to have to criticize the boys. I felt following the red card, it's kind of sent the wrong message. I think we pressed really aggressively up until
Mhm.
the red card. And I think the red card actually let Leeds back into the game, ironically.
100%.
I think
100%. Like
I the boys didn't carry
it's
the
that
same
mentality. It's
aggressiveness.
the mentality change because you feel
Yeah,
like you've got that extra man
protection.
and you don't really need to go, you know, too hard. And I feel like when you have a team that's that like that, they're like a wounded animal. Like they can really, you know what I mean? Like they really have to go, they really come out and they really want to go for it because they've got nothing to lose. They're on a relegation path anyway, and you have to be wary of that. And I mean, we'll get into the with their goal and how they got back into it. But for me, the issue is that we went from going insanely on them to sort of like half on them, half not, and not really being sure about what we want to do. I think the game plan changed too much, and I feel like Mikel was a bit annoyed because he was seeing that we weren't going, for the kill. And even though we were creating chances and we were turning the ball over, it was sort of like, are we doing this? Are we really doing this? Or are we kind of just, refreshing because Thursday or whatever?
Well,
But it was very
I mean,
much,
the thing
yeah,
with me is I would be okay with this, mate, but I don't think we did that. It wasn't controlled possession. We were giving the ball away. It was
no.
choppy. I, in
It
fact,
wasn't rest
totally
defense. It wasn't rest defense. It was
no.
just sort of like, it was like, okay,
I'll take a
we're gonna,
turn. I'll take a
yeah,
turn, you take a
that's
turn,
it. Yeah.
and it wasn't controlled possession, and I actually agree, this is what I would have preferred happened at the end of the 10 at 10 men. I would prefer if we were to pass teams to death. I don't think we did with Leeds here. And I think the big thing is Granit Xhaka actually played a really, really quietly really good game. In that left half space, he
Mhm.
was releasing Martinelli constantly. And it even happened, I think, at
That's what
like
he
the
does.
30th.
That's his bread and butter. Like that
It
ability to pass into the final third. Last season, he produced the most final third passes in the entire league. That's his bread and butter. He can do that again and again and again.
Yeah,
So
and you
I,
give him
I
time
don't
and
think it should
space.
be a surprise anymore.
Yeah, you give that boy time and space, kind of in the left half space,
Mm.
he will find you between the fullback and the center back. That's his favorite ball, and that's the ball that
Hmm.
really we needed to exploit, and we did. And Martinelli had another really good chance around the 30th minute. He strikes off at Meslier, kind of rebounds out. There was even a chance kind of towards the end of the half off that Odegaard free kick that again I was just yelling,
Hmm.
Martin, get it deep in the box and knock on will happen. And it I don't know what Meslier is doing. He gets a hand to it, but Eddie almost gets his hat trick, if not for a really good clearance by Leeds defender. But I think those were kind of the main takeaways of the first half. But ironically, after that red card for me, I think the boys struggled possession wise. We weren't as good in possession. We still squeeged
It
Leeds
was
kind of up the pitch, but
yeah.
it wasn't controlled possession. And I felt that we were
It was
starting to,
frantic. It was very
yeah.
frantic. I think we just sort of we tried to go for the kill, and then when we didn't have the ball, we kind of just scored. I felt like it was a bit like Chelsea. It was a bit
Mm,
Chelsea-ish. Like we were just sort of like it was there. We were there. We wanted to be there. We wanted to be on the front foot, but we were just sort of erratic with it, and it wasn't as controlled as I'd like it to be. I think that comes with an experience as well because you don't have that calm head on the ball in just put your foot on the ball and calm things down, everyone take a breath and you reset and go things. I think as the team gets older, and especially without White, I feel like White would have done that. I think White would have been that guy to control progression in that first half and really
that
understand, look, we need to calm the ball down.
Well, that's the thing. I think what Ben White does is he understands tempo. He understands the
Yeah.
tempo of the match and when to slow it and make sure that rhythm is put in play. And I agree with you. I think just Rob um, gets rid of it. He hot potatoes it because he isn't comfortable with the ball. And I think anybody with eyes can see that. Like he's
Yep.
okay, but he gets rid of it too quick. And there are times that he delays his pass and then he gives it too late. And I think that combined with Cedric, who was having a tough time down that right-hand side, just
Yep.
getting the ball under control. There was a lot of times his first touch was really quite off. He was chasing it backwards. Ironically, the one reason we kind of had a semblance of control was Martin Odegaard had a really good, technically secure game. And I expect that from him at home. I think he does this quite regularly at home. It's more a way that I struggle with him in terms of his technical security. But I mean, really quickly, in terms of Gabby taking set pieces, for me, no, I need him in the middle of the
In
box.
the
For me, that's
box.
where he's
Yeah.
most dangerous. He's got one of the biggest aerial threats in our team, beyond Gabriel and the center backs. And so for me, I need him in the chaos and the mixer. Although he does have a good delivery, I think we have boys that have excellent delivery. That's actually once we
It's
played.
why it annoys me that he's on corners. Like he's so good at
Yeah,
them, but I'd prefer like an Emil or someone else or
I
anyone
do. I
to be on
prefer an
them.
Emil in swinger and have Gabby in the middle of the box because he's more of a goal threat than a lot of the players that we have in the middle
Yeah.
of the box. So for me, add more goal threats in the middle of the box. But Gabby can take them every so often. Look, if Emil's not on the pitch like he wasn't, that's when I would
Mhm.
kind of allow for Emil to kind of take the set
Just
piece.
anyone but Cedric hitting the first man. Just literally anyone but Cedric. Like
Yeah.
his delivery is just. I'm still venting about the Southampton game. It's still pissing me off. Do you remember that free kick where he just kind of took it,
Mm.
just try to pass it inside. It's still pissing me off. But anyway, that's the day for a different day. But with I think moving on to the second half of things, like when when did you feel like the game was sort of drifting? I think there was a point where the game was sort of getting like not away from us, but it was sort of just going, okay, they're getting a bit more possession and they're trying to just really take the game back in control. I think around the 50th minute to about the 60th minute for me, I think they just sort of started to get back into the game a bit too much for my liking. What do you make of it?
I think Dan James got on the ball. That was the biggest difference. And
Yeah.
so essentially what happened was they were funneling Dan James, who they weren't finding at all in the first half. He put his foot on the ball and he started driving at our defenses. And I don't think we were as aggressive in the middle of the park meeting our markers too. I think Martinelli and Saka were tiring kind of on the wings, and that's really why we saw the change. And it kind of the first goal is poor marking by us. I must be honest with you. We left a man open in that marking. I think Tomiyasu gets sucked in as well. He leaves his zone, but we don't quite go zonal. So I'm not too upset at that, but we just didn't pick up everybody in the middle of the box. And that's kind of why we left a free man back post. And for me, that's always annoying as a coach because that's really preventable. If you're going to go man to man, everybody have their assignments and don't lose them back post. But I don't think Leeds did anything superb to deserve that. But we were just really poor defending the set piece, which we aren't normally. I mean, we're actually
Mm,
very good at that. So I'll let it go for a pass, but I think it was coming. Like Leeds were getting their foot on the ball. We didn't come out aggressively out of the gate. And I feel as though when you let Dan James run for Leeds, you let them back in the game. All they need is a couple more transitions, and boom, they get the verve and they start putting their foot on the ball. And if Junior Firpo had any kind of touch, we would have been in trouble a lot more. I think
mhm,
Junior Firpo was having good positions, but a horrible game. And if that boy had something about him, that we would have
mhm.
made us punish a lot more. But I think that was the big kind of takeaway for me because after that goal, we kind of make a Pepe sub to kind of basically save
Ugh.
Saka, who again I felt was really tired. We kind of made note of it kind of earlier on, but
Yep.
after that sub, um, let's talk about it. Like, what did you make of kind of the state of play? Because I think the next
I
50 minutes.
I'm sorry, but I'm just doing a Pepe segment for literally 2 minutes because I can't. This is one of the worst cameos I've seen from Pepe. This is up there with Norwich.
Mm,
That is that bad. It was diabolical. The amount of times, no technical security on the ball, no ability to take on players, no ability just to hold the ball, constantly driving in, losing the ball. Nothing about him. Nothing. Absolutely nothing about him. And it was horrific. It was and and this is coming from someone who's not like one of these heavy Arteta guys who just goes in on Pepe. I've constantly tried to defend this guy. And it pisses me off that I've had to do it because he's just let us down. The one game I can say thank you for is Wolves. Like Wolves, he did his thing.
mm.
Great game. But like this game is everything why I understand why people don't like Pepe. It was, oh, don't get me started. Yeah, Aston Villa away was just as bad. Jesus Christ. This was bad, guys. This was really bad. Literally, it was. I'm sorry, but literally, like I'm one of the ones that defended this guy, and that's why it annoys me so much because personally, I've always known that he's never going to be the guy that we need to go in through to next season. But I've always been like, give him a chance. We can get something for him, or he can add some additional goal output for the squad. Um, people seem to like him. He seems to be doing his thing. He's got a good left foot. He can do things. He can be a threat on set pieces, etc., etc. But like it's performances like this, and no one says anything. None of the Pepe guys, they say nothing
Well,
about
the
this,
part
and then they
part of the
go, okay,
problem.
calm, calm. Five games, five goals in 3 games against Brighton at the end of the season. That goes on for ages. But these whole games like Aston Villa, Norwich against Leeds, not a word gets mentioned about it, and they're
Well,
just like, oh, calm, it's
part
fine. It's so stupid.
part of the problem is, mate. I think, and the reason that Albert Stuyvenberg, who by the way isn't an animated coach when it comes to that kind of thing, and lost it. I don't know if anybody saw, but
I would have lost it. I would have lost it.
yeah. Well,
Okay, I would
well,
have lost it.
part of the problem is, mate, because when we are down by only 1 goal like that, what you ask your wingers and your subs who are coming on, "Listen, don't chase your shot, just do very basic stuff.
Yep.
Keep possession of the ball." We wanted to keep possession. We didn't wanna give Leeds the opportunity to transition because they're strong. When
You
you
mean
make
when
it a
we're
running
1 up, by the
game
way? You said 1 down.
sorry, yeah, 1 up. When you're
Yeah.
1 up like that,
Yeah.
you want to kill off the game with controlled possession, and Pepe wasn't doing that. And then when he had an opportunity to be vertical, he had the one time to go into space. And by the way, look, I understand that Dan James is quick, but Pepe's quick. Pepe is not slow. And the
I'm not hearing
frustrating
this. I'm not
part.
hearing this either, okay? Look, he had just kick it out. Kick it out. Don't give them the ball back. If
Well,
you're in
not
doubt,
even,
kick
mate,
it into the corner flag or something. You don't even need to go for goal, but to
for
cut
me,
in,
mate,
to
mate,
cut
it's
in.
really
I'm
simple. You
done. I'm
just
done.
keep control of the ball, you take it wide, and you wait for support. If you don't trust
Yes.
yourself 1v1 with Dan James, then you take control of the ball, you take yourself to the touch line, you wait for support, and you recycle the ball. Mate,
Literally anything you can do anything apart from what you did. You do
we
literally, you
have,
could kick it out.
we
You
have,
could kick
like,
it out much.
we have a saying kind of really in coaching, retain, reuse, recycle, and
Yeah.
it's the 3 R's. Some people use that for recycling, but us coaches, we use it for football. Retain, keep hold of the ball. Make sure your first touch is good. Reuse, look up for your option. Recycle, make the pass to get it back to your team. That for us is the biggest thing when we're trying to kill a game. And so for me, I was very, very frustrated. I think he wanted to give Pepe a game because again,
Yeah.
we
We
need
need
people
everyone fit.
inside, and we needed everyone
Yeah.
fit. Kayo was looking tired, and he was the most natural replacement. If you don't put on a Pepe, I think you lose him for the rest of the season. So, look, it was a frustrating one, but I don't
What I'm
want to end
saying,
on
man.
that. I
No, I don't
really
wanna
think
end on it either, but it needs to be said. It needs to be said because for those of us who've defended him in the face of the people that have really gone at him, because I haven't. I've always been someone who said, "Look, every player who puts on the shirt, you give them a chance. You make sure that they are supported, and you don't just turn on them and all abuse at them. Like you have to give them a chance to really perform at the highest level." And he's shown that he has the ability to do that with his
well,
set pieces against in the Europa League, or his ability to be a threat in the box, cut inside. He can do things, but when you drop 0 out of 10 performances on multiple occasions throughout a season, I'm done. I'm done.
I think
Is
so.
that's it?
This question here, I would kind of respond with kind of why is it then that Granit Xhaka, Mohamed El Neni, those kind of players are working? I don't think it's necessarily experience. I think a lot of the players that you mentioned are very weak mentally and inconsistent in their play those last couple of years. I think Ozil is a unique one. Everybody knows, I believe, he's a generational playmaker. I couldn't speak more highly of that boy's talent and what
Yep.
he was when he was younger. I think people forget what he was when he was younger. I mean, he's at Werder Bremen. This guy was unbelievable, but towards the end, it became a toxic relationship. So I think I group
Yep.
Ozil in a little bit of a different boat than the rest. The other three that you've mentioned, they're mentally weak players. They are players that perform when everybody else around them is performing. They will never be the ones to get going on their own. They will never be the ones to respond in a different sense. I think Pepe
Aubameyang a bit less than the other two. I think Aubameyang
did
had
less.
that ability to really when you need a goal, you can actually count on him. And I think what we showed in that FA Cup run, for example, or like his ability to score to win a golden boot, he is someone that has. I agree with you mentally, but he has that ability to be in the box and contribute. He's a contributor. The other two, Laka and Pepe. Laka is the injury. I think the injury in 18-19 really ruined his burst, and his ball striking got way, way worse. And Pepe is just a badly profiled signing. That's what Pepe was.
Pepe was
Uh,
done from another era, but you know what I would say? What these all four represent are Mavericks, and that's something that in an Arteta system that doesn't really work. And in fact, if you really look at Pep's system with Man City,
mm,
Mavericks don't necessarily work. Grealish, who was a Maverick, is struggling hugely. Raheem Sterling, who did and was a Maverick with Liverpool, struggled for a while until actually, ironically, Mikel Arteta got him under control with Sané, and they were able to learn some pause and become part of a system player. I think Mavericks in a positional system struggle because Mavericks don't listen to zones. They don't listen to tactical instructions, and they like to wander. They prefer to wander. And so for
Yeah.
me, that's the biggest thing to describe why some of these players don't fit. I think Lacazette isn't quite Maverick. That's very generous. But in general, Aubameyang, Ozil, Pepe. I think when you look at Grealish would struggle. You know, Mahrez, for example, he became part of the team. I think when you look at it, Pep and Arteta come from a similar school where the system takes over than individuals. And for a lot of these players, individual play is what makes them great. And so that's kind of why they
Mm.
do struggle in a lot of these positional systems, quote and unquote.
The
Um,
other thing I'll just say on that is you can accommodate one Maverick. For example, if you have a talisman like a
yeah,
Ronaldinho or a Kaká or someone like this, where you can understand that they are that talented that you can build around them, that is where you can see, this is someone that you can really build around, and you can, build your zonal positional play around that Maverick and have them basically be free. But when you have multiple of them and that's your entire front line, it's just not feasible. It's not,
but
you don't have
it's
the
all about
ability
balance,
to.
though, Curran, mate. Like, I think like so when do I think Mavericks work in a Klopp system? A little bit, but they actually work because the midfield isn't Maverick. And so they remove an area of the pitch in order to allow their front line to be Mavericks. So for example, Pep, he won't make that sacrifice in midfield when you look at the technique that he prefers. Rodri, Gundogan, De Bruyne, David Silva, very
Mhm.
different profile to your Hendersons, your Milners, your workhorses, right? Like they're a different philosophy. And so you can support more than one Maverick in the front line when you've got workers and workhorses behind you to allow yourself to do so. If you've got a Maverick in the middle of the park, and by the way, we kind of have one in Martin Odegaard, somebody that isn't very much a proficient physical beast. You can't afford another Maverick in the front line. We need to surround him with strength,
Yeah.
which, by the way, is why he improved with that extra body in the middle of the park when we added a Muhammad Al Neni. When you give him the
You need
platform,
off the ball discipline as well in that front line. You can't just
you-
have on the ball brilliance. I mean, you have to have. Aubameyang did it very well. I'll give him that.
yeah,
I'll give credit to where it is. But when you have players like Pepe who just aren't willing to do the dirty work tracking back, it's just not going to work in this position, in a positional play system. And I'm as disappointed as anyone, because I feel like every player who puts on the shirt, I want them to do, become a world class talent. I think that's
no.
how you should look at it as a fan. But the thing
So
is,
the one
they're just players aren't able to do it.
so the one thing, like I would be with, Blaze, I'd be with you, mate, where I'd be disappointed if these guys weren't showing examples off the pitch of not being consistent. Like Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Pepe, if they had shown in previous spells that they had an ability to be consistent, I'd place blame on the manager. If you're talking about these players with sustained consistency, that's when you can blame the manager for not getting him in the middle of the team. But if they're themselves inconsistent and they're not stepping up consistently to get him in the middle of the park, then it struggles. You struggle yourself to kind of make excuses for them. I'll give you kind of the best example for me is when Mikel said, "Look, if you're a 30 goal a season striker, you can put up with a lot of shit, but you got to score the 30 goals." And
Yeah,
and I think that kind of describes what a Maverick is. You can deal with a Maverick if they're consistent. If a Maverick is making the difference for you in that end of the pitch consistently, a Thierry Henry, a Robert Perez, these were Mavericks, by the way. And
yeah.
what did we surround those Mavericks with? Gilberto Silva, Patrick Vieira,
Patrick Vieira,
Lauren, Ashley Cole,
Ashley Cole.
Cole Campbell, Kolo Toure. I wouldn't
Yeah.
call Ashley Cole was brilliant, by the way, on the ball, but physical beasts. Physical, like huge 6 foot, absolutely destroyers. And that's what
Shall
allowed us,
we?
by the way, to have that left hand side that was just a beautiful Maverick. But again, you have to balance it. So it's all about balance, mate. I don't want to keep running around in circles.
No, no, no. And I think it's
Okay.
it's a very good segue to what I feel should be the last segment we do,
Mm.
because we've covered, I think, most of the Leeds game. Um, Talking of 1v1 physical duel monsters, we have been linked to a certain Yuri Tielemans, who I don't feel possesses that same ability. We talked about it before. about how, I feel like if we go for a Tielemans, it's kind of cutting off our midfield options. You felt the opposite. What was your thinking behind it?
Well, so for me, I really dislike Yuri Tielemans for his off the ball work, and
Me too.
I don't think that but it's not just that. It's when you're comparing. People have talked about, can you put him in a more compact system and see a different Yuri Tielemans, and what's the difference between him and Granit Xhaka? Well, one, they're very very different players. Granit Xhaka for me has a lot more scanning and awareness and positional base, and that's why he's a second ball magnet than
Yeah.
than Yuri Tielemans. That's an issue. And another issue with Yuri Tielemans is he is not somebody that plays at the left half space. And if you're gonna be doing that, you'd force Martin Odegaard and a midfield of Yuri Tielemans, Martin Odegaard, and Thomas Partey is just
Oh
asking
God.
to be transitioned on. And you can't expect somebody, and I agree, you can't expect us to make use of two players out of three that are physically deficient and can run off the ball. If one of them, cool, calm. But we've chosen Martin Odegaard. We've chosen Martin Odegaard to be that man. So that next 6'8" has to be somebody that's able to help out in transitions to let us get to kind of get the people up the pitch and give them the platform to express
To do
themselves.
their best to work. Yeah.
We've seen constantly. When we have a big reason why our invincible success was so good, by the way, and why we had players that weren't the best off the ball. Robert Perez, Burkamp, these weren't players that always checked back.
Track
Um,
back.
it wasn't
It's a
always
different era as well.
I don't know, mate. I don't agree with that because you know what? We had physical monsters in the like. What did we surround that team with? When you had multiple people in the front line that didn't track back, what did we surround them with? Two
Physical true monsters in the
monsters
back line.
and a quartet of absolute beasts: Colo Toure, Sol Campbell, Patrick Vieira, Gilberto Silva. Who is outrunning those four? No one. So I have no problem when you add Mavericks to the top of the pitch, but you've got to make sure that your center is impenetrable. And for me, Yuri Tielemans isn't that. And so for me, I would like us to attack a little bit better next season with more verve. And so I'm recruiting somebody, a 6'8", that can be a lot more robust. And when we do replace Granit Xhaka, I don't want to lose the ability to control second balls, which you would with Yuri Tielemans. You would gain more on the
100%.
ball, but you would lose the off the ball. You'd lose your compactness. And what we saw
And that's
against
where we
Leeds,
struggle at the moment. That's where
it
we
is.
struggle right now.
You would see more Leeds games than you would Chelsea or Man United.
Watford away. Watford away.
Yeah, another one. And for me, it's kind of the same story. You just can't have more than two out of three midfielders be physically deficient, not just poor, but deficient. And you can't do that. So for me, that's why it's a big no. But look, mate, to wrap up Leeds, the last segment that I wanted to do really quickly. Guys, we're guaranteed to finish no lower than fifth. Everybody in the comments, thank you.
That was
for
done
sticking with us.
after thingy. That was done after United lost at Brighton.
It
That
was.
was
I just like
done,
to put
yeah.
it up every time we beat, we do the Grim Reaper where we're going through the rivals, okay, and we're securing.
You do the Grim Reaper.
I do the Grim Reaper. I've said it for a while. But what do you guys make of? We're gonna finish fifth at minimum. I mean, we all know on the channel what we feel over here where we're gonna end, but we will finish at minimum fifth. We will be kind of in our points total now. This is kind of the lowest at this point. If we gain no points that top four challengers have achieved as a points total in the last 5 years, 66 was the minimum, by the way.
Yeah.
So we've already got that. So I don't want to hear that this is the worst top four battle in the history and that this is the worst because in the last 8, 66 was the minimum that it was to achieve it. And if we're to win 0 games left, we will have achieved the minimum. So I don't want to hear that. But I think exiting the game, we've really put ourselves, mate, in a huge position. Spurs, I don't want to take away from the preview, so we'll keep it really short and sweet for myself. We basically have a final. We have a final to do. We've got some good, fun content for you guys tomorrow. But after the game, I just felt very happy that Eddie Nketiah got his goals that he deserved. I think Martin Odegaard had a really good game, which I was very happy about because I think he struggled before. And I think that he was really on song today. And Mohamed El Neni was a quiet warrior. He was finding people between the lines. He was doing a really good job again. And of course, Granite. I mean, those four for me had the best games. I'll probably slightly give it to Eddie. Maybe that's a little bit biased because I think he does a lot of undue work that really got him into the position to get those goals. They weren't the greatest goals, but it was all of his work. And he was a very fierce presser. And if we're going to get anything from Spurs, it has to be through attacking their
The
buildup, getting
press.
high up
Yeah.
the pitch, sustaining pressure, and really camping ourselves in their end of the pitch. And I think this was a dry run. Some
But
people
they'll
said,
try and draw us into doing that as well. That's their whole
"Mm,
thing. They want to draw us into a transition battle. But in terms of man of the match for me, it was I agree with you. It was Eddie. I think some shout
yeah,
outs. I think Gabby has to have a shout out as well for his work off the
mhm,
left. I think he did had an excellent game. Jacques obviously for feeding him. Elneny, even Odegaard to a degree, because him and Saka were having a period in that first half where they were really clicking and really doing well, and we saw some really nice patterns of play. Um, for me, I I even took myself off Twitter because I don't want to be constantly doing getting into posting memes and just doing things being a menace for 3 days. I've taken a bit of a time off, and I'll be back for Thursday ready and roaring. So we'll be back. But the thing is, I think tomorrow is going to be a very interesting preview. I think if there is one preview you want to tune into, I think me and George will both be very on song for this Spurs preview. Every day that goes past, I mean, I remember after Leeds, I was kind of dreading it. I was like, if they win, it's 1 point, and then this, and then as the days have gone on, I've just sort of felt more and more, just logically speaking, best against three of the back teams performances we've had this season. Aston Villa is a perfect example. At home is a
no,
perfect
sorry, Kieran, don't
example.
wanna
But yeah,
interject, but, I've got something for Spurs. I love that Antonio Conte's got Mikel dancing in his head constantly. If you see any of the comments, he can't keep Mikel's name out of his mouth. It's really
he
quite
really
sad.
can't. He
I've got
really
I've
can't.
got I've got stuff for Spurs. Let's talk real. They've been shit for a while. They've been a really, really poor team, and I've
Very
got
poor.
a lot of ways to break down why tactically they're really gonna struggle. And you know what?
As
Tomorrow,
do I.
can't wait to go into it. I hope they've got a good driver because we know Lloris can't drive. And I think they're gonna drive him into a car crash again. I mean, it's gonna be a struggle. I'm sorry, mate, but we destroy them at their place. I think it's a beautiful game. A lot of people are nervous, squeaky bum time for some. For me, I say screw it. I love these games. Put it with chest.
The
Inject it
team love these
every day.
games. Like we're having Xhaka outside in his car going, we don't even need to talk about it. It's just gonna get done. And you just love to see it. You love to see that
Yeah.
mentality. I feel like this team is chomping at the bit. You've seen Saka going
Oh,
on interviews saying, "I want to win this game. We haven't won it. I haven't won it at their ground. I want to win this game."
oh,
So
I'm gonna
yeah,
be
look, if look,
I'm gonna be so unbearable. The amount of crap that you've got to
do you
dodge,
have understand the
we've
amount of times I
dodged.
went on the terrace? Like that
Oh,
for me personally.
I
Like,
can't wait.
do
I
you
can't
remember
wait
after
to drink it in
United
that
away? After United away, I went on there and people were shouting at me. I'm like, bro,
yeah.
look, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Sit down. Just
Oh, bro, I
relax.
I am
Okay.
I'm so excited to really exploit how soft and zero spineless amoeba like players that we've got facing here. I'm seeing combined 11s with Romero, who, by the way, make no mistake, is going to get stripped in this game. That's going to be a goal. You're going to
Yeah.
see a carbon copy of the Leeds goal, but we're getting into the preview. I'm getting excited because, guys,
Yeah.
I'm not nervous for these things. I relish these challenges, and I can assure you, if
I
we are a
I will
team
tell you anything.
competing,
This will be
sorry,
the best. This will be one of the best previews of the year.
yeah,
This will
and
be one because I'm just as fired up as George. It will be because I wasn't there for Spurs at home. I couldn't be there for the Spurs at home preview. But Spurs away, you're damn sure I'm going to be here because this will be the day. This will be
sorry,
the
Lucas.
day we end it.
I love this, but I'm sorry. No, I'm going for the W. I'm going to step on their throats. We're going to complete the top four tomorrow, and you're going to see the reasons for why. But you know what? I don't want to draw. I want a win, a convincing win. I very much see a convincing win, and I think it's because really, when you look at it, this is a team that's deficient in far too many areas, and we've got Ben White coming back. We've got our build up back, and I'm very excited to see what this team can do. And to do it over our rivals for narrative, by the way, where we've already won the league
And
twice.
for Amazon.
Oh my god. It's the character arc that Amazon is loving and looking for. So for me, let's do what we did 2 times before where we won the league at the shithole. We're gonna get Champions League at the shithole. It's gonna be beautiful, and I can't wait for it. I hope everybody is very excited because I am ready for the challenge. Thank goodness. You have me worried, mate. Come on, like, and you know what? I'm excited, but we gotta back the boys. You know, I'm tired of this toxic positivity. I'm tired of this, "Oh, don't say anything because then you're gonna get bantered after." No, call it with chest. When your boys perform, back your boys. When you're going 4 on the bounce and they have really good play, back your boys to win. And that's what we're gonna do. And I back our boys to win. I think it's gonna
And
be a
I'm not even gonna be if
story.
this, that. This is what's gonna happen on Thursday, and this
Yeah,
is what it's gonna be, and there's nothing they really can do about it. There's
yeah.
nothing they can do about it. They've really, really understood what their assignment is, and they cannot compete. They can't. There's no ability to cover spaces in the way they need to, and the
Mate,
spaces in between the lines,
the
etc.,
funniest
etc.
The funniest thing that I like to see on Twitter is, but what if we bottle it? And ironically, what have Tottenham been doing for the last 10, 15, 20 years? Bottling it. So if you're really talking about who's likely to really have bottle, it is the boys in white, the shittiest people on earth. And I can't wait. So look,
Mhm.
we're getting into preview. Last thing, thank you everybody for interacting. We love everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You hit that bell for notifications so that you do know when we do upload. And guys, I'm telling you, tomorrow, probably 8 p.m. I'm going to double check with the boys, but it's probably the likely time. It's going to be the ever so after Spurs preview that you've been waiting for. Yes, you got a little bit of a taste, but we're going to go a little bit harder. We're actually going to get tactical.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't. I'll lose my head. Take no responsibility for it. But thank you so much. If you guys do love the content and you're new here, thank you so much for checking us out. You can become a member by clicking the little join button. And we will have Chris coming back. Don't worry. I know we've said it. And Willow, of course, too. So don't worry, guys. We've got some more content for you. But look, guys, come on, you Gunners. We've got some stuff going. We've got stuff for Spurs. You can check all of our socials down at the bottom. Catch me at GeorgeV_AFC. Current mate, where can they find you?
You can find me at current BoP as always, and don't forget to find CK at CK Football at the one Willow for Willow, and follow the Twitter at BoP Footy. It's down below. All the socials down below. Thank you guys so much. This is Ball of a Passion, and we will see you soon. Bye now.